Welcome back to Brave Birds DFS, one of the best places for sports. And let's talk about Juan Soto and its impact on the entire field of sports. Juan Soto, when you say that name moving forward, it's going to be synonymous with money. It reminds me of the 90s. Like if you ask anybody over 40, if you say Millie Vanilli in front of anybody over 40, they're going to smirk. And they're going to smirk because they're synonymous with being fake. These guys won Grammys pretending like they could sing. And then they had a little bit of a mishap and everything fell apart. So Juan Soto, when you hear the name Juan Soto, you're not going to think about the Padres or the Washington Nationals or the Mets, which were the team he plays for now. You're going to think about that guap, that money, that cheese, that fetty. I mean, is this the tipping point? I thought previous signings would be the tipping point, but is this the tipping point for bringing the best athletes back to baseball? I say that because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the best football players also played baseball. You had David Winfield, Hall of Famer, who was drafted by probably I think in the NBA, NFL, and MLB. Obviously, we had Bo Jackson. By the way, you need to find Tecmo Bowl and play Bo Jackson when he played for the LA Raiders. Play with Bo Jackson. It's a phenomenal situation. But in the 80s and 90s, we had Bo Jackson, we had Deion Sanders, and we had Brian Jordan. These were three NFL players that actually also played baseball. But a few things happened. It happened all the time. Number one, and I saw it with my own eyes because I played baseball. A lot of those football players, now they're tough, but they hated getting hit by the baseball. And I'm not talking about a grounder that pops you in the mouth or a grounder that hits you in the arm. I'm talking about when you get about 12, 13, maybe 14, and you face that guy that's throwing 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. There are a lot of people that love baseball until you get hit with a fastball. Most of the people watching this have never been hit with an 80-mile per hour fastball. Let me tell you, even 60, 70 hertz. When you get hit with a 70, 80, 90 mile per hour fastball, you feel it in the bone. It could break your bone. You feel it in your bones. Then all of a sudden, it gets numb. Then it gets hot. And then your arm or whatever part of the body it feels like is dead. You're thinking, will I ever use, if you're a right hander, you get hit on your left side, will I ever use my left arm again? So it's at that point that a lot of people that play football and baseball, they tap out of baseball and they go to football. The other thing that happens is the crowd that watches baseball games versus the crowd that watches football games is totally different. At baseball games, you have your boys and a bunch of team moms. Football games have cheerleaders and all of the people that guys like to get attention from. So your attention and notoriety is exponentially greater when you're playing football over baseball. So getting hit with the ball in combination with just the popularity is kind of game over. And then nowadays you throw in the fact that all these sports are specialized. So whatever sports you play, you got to play all year round. But I mean, at this point, we already see the numbers. We see that the participation in contact football is decreasing. You know, even the NFL is trying to push flag football. Moms and some dads want their kids to play soccer and tennis, or if tennis is too rough, pickleball. And so we've seen this change, but it just, if you're somebody, if you can play football, you can play baseball, as we've seen up until recently, like I said. And even in current times, we know that Kyler Murray was drafted in the first round by the A's. We know that Jameis Winston, we know he played baseball at Florida State. We know Russell Wilson, was drafted by the Rockies. We know what is it? The quarterback Drew Bledsoe, was drafted by the Yankees. So we know all of these players also played, baseball. But this has to be the tipping point, because especially nowadays we're getting hit the ball. I played baseball in the 90s, but now, I mean, there's all the players wear all that padding and there's so much safety. Yeah, you can still get hit, and yes, it still hurts. But I mean, I don't know how you choose football over baseball. And I know some people say, well, baseball is boring. And I'm gonna say something. When you're playing baseball, it is totally different than watching baseball. And I don't even think watching baseball is boring per se. I just think that there's so many baseball games in a season that when you're watching baseball, it's not as special. When you're watching high school or college football, it's like less than 15 games. Even the NFL is 17 games. When you're watching the baseball game, you're like, if I miss this one, there's 160 more of these left. So I just think the value, because there's so many games, is left. And baseball, if you don't understand baseball, or if your team isn't good and you're not bought in, it can seem kind of boring. But I can tell you, the difference as far as enjoyment of playing football and baseball is not a big gap. So for the people that are actually playing, I don't think that's stopping them. But I mean, think about it. Football contracts, a lot of those contracts are for, social media and online in the newspapers. This guy signs $120 million contract. But then when you read the fine print, it's like 33 million of it's guaranteed. The rest of it is just for show and has a team option, and the team can opt out after this. And then, because of the salary cap in NFL, the team comes to you and says, yeah, we want you to defer some of your money, or, roll some of this. It's not guaranteed. And I mean, even though getting hit with a baseball hurts, we know all of the hits with football is more dangerous for your brain. So, guaranteed contract, guaranteed contracts in baseball. This is insane. Over $750 million, most, the richest contract in the history of sports. Just insane. Congratulations to Juan Soto. I'm a Braves fan. I don't know if I say congratulations to the Mets, but it's just amazing. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think this will have any impact on, kids in their teens and maybe early 20s who are kind of trying to decide between baseball and football, what sport they'll choose? Leave a comment, and I'll talk to you next time.